Okay, you guys are live.
All right, Travis, we're good.
Okay. Good morning. It is 9:06, and I'm going to call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. I'd like to establish that we have a quorum.
Yes, sir. We have 6 members present.
Perfect. Okay, consent agenda. The commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation to public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda will be considered in one vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, show of hands with aye.
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 Opposed?
That was 6-0 in favor.
6-0. Okay. Regular agenda, subdivision plats. Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to City Council. First, replat of Lot 2, Block 4, Martha Mather, second edition. The request for approval of a first replat of Lot 2, Block 4, Martha Mather, second edition, being 0.385 acres located at the southwest corner, East 40th Street and Amarillo Street, variance from Chapter 10382 of the Land Development Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a paving width 30 feet without curb and gutter in lieu of the required 40 feet with curb and gutter for Amarillo Street, and to leave an easterly portion of East 40th Street without curb and gutter, and a variance from Chapter 9.5 of the Land Development Subdivision Ordinance, exempting the requirement for sidewalks adjacent to East 40th Street and Amarillo Street.
Okay, good morning. I'm Jeff Fisher, Principal Planner. Our first case today is the Mathers edition. And Ray, I think you need to enable my screen.
And Travis, we lost your video.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Bear with me a moment. Okay. So our first case today is a first replat of Lot 2, Block 4, Martha Mather, second edition. This is a final plat of one lot, and it's being platted into 3 lots. This was a vacant property. Was originally the first plat for this area. The Mathers second edition was done in 1906. Most of these were huge, about 5.5 acre lots, and then over time they were subdivided. So the last replat of this was in 2001, the piece to the south, and so this left about 1/3 of an acre to the north that's remained vacant ever since. So they want to plat into 3 lots. They each meet the minimum standards, 50 feet in width by 100 feet in depth. The one on the corner is a little bit larger, which makes sense because they're a double frontage lot, so they're going to lose some space between here and between here to develop. In addition, the applicant is requesting variances. So it's we've kind of combined them as 2 variances. One is to maintain a 30-foot paving width with no curb and gutter on Amarillo Street, and as well as no curb and gutter on the east end of 40th Street. So there's about a 14.75 foot gap here that was never curbed, as well as no curbs on this side. So the variance is to allow this area to remain uncurbed, and staff wants the curbs. The second variance is we believe this is an area being so close to Goliad Elementary. I'll show you in a minute. So we wanted to start some sidewalks, particularly that these lots are immediately across the road. So we were asking for a sidewalk along 40th and Amarillo. So the second variance from the applicant is to not have to install the sidewalks. 12 notices were mailed out within 200 feet. On Friday, we received a petition. I believe it may have been initiated by this owner here, because they had phoned me in opposition to the request. And so there were 6 owners within the 200-foot circle that also joined that petition. Their concern are the lot sizes. They mentioned about possibly turning it into rentals. Their other concerns were about the drainage and the curbs and the lack of connectivity in the area. And so I had mentioned to them that staff is supporting or is recommending the curbs, which will help with the drainage and the sidewalks. We did also receive 1 in favor from the school district for Goliad Elementary on this side. So and together, this equaled 32% of the land within the 200-foot area. So in order to approve today, all of the members present, you'll need a supermajority. I believe that it conforms with the comprehensive plan. The 3 new single-family homes are what this area we believe needs. The plan talks about promotion of neighborhood diversity and security by encouraging a mix of age, income, and housing choices. So we believe it's doing that by allowing 2 more homes in this area. Staff recommends the sidewalks on both streets, as well as a painted crosswalk across East 40th Street. This would have to be approved by the school district, Public Works and Planning. So just an FYI on that, but we would like to see the crosswalk. As soon as you cross the street, there's about 30 feet. Kids would have to walk on a paved and gravel shoulder to get to the school. And then there's an immediate sidewalk connection there that takes them to the entrance. So we believe that's logical in that respect to have a sidewalk in that area. The new sidewalks and crosswalks will assist in protecting the safety of children. That's consistent with statement B in the intent statements. The extension of a water main across East 40th will allow adequate utilities. That's consistent with statement G. And curbing along Amarillo Street and the remainder of East 40th will improve drainage and reduce street edge deterioration. That's consistent with statement H in the subdivision ordinance. So here's a couple photos of the area. This is looking south at the property from East 40th Street, and over here is Amarillo. Here's that gap, approximately 15 feet, that was never curbed. So the curb would basically come up to about here. Then there would be a sidewalk and a ramp here to allow that crosswalk to go across. And then the sidewalk would run down on this side. This is looking west on East 40th Street. So as you can see, that was entirely curbed. And then south on Amarillo. One of the reasons that planning and engineering both want the curb, you can see the drainage not very good in that area. So the curb at least would help kind of improve the drainage flow, and engineering would probably give us a little bit more of the technical reasons why. So on the street and curb variance, staff recommends denial. We don't believe that we do support, starting with the street, we do support the street width variance, just not the curbs. So the street is sufficient width in the area. It's 30 feet, but it has served that area. It's an infill project, so we're okay with that. However, we do believe that the curbs would be needed to improve the drainage flow in the area and the edge treatment of the street paving, as you can see from those pictures with all those water puddles. We don't believe there's a hardship. The topography is relatively flat, so there shouldn't be any hardship there in terms of installing those curbs and the sidewalks. And we also believe that without having curb and gutter, that could set a negative precedent. We've talked about this in other meetings with plats, that if the first developer doesn't gets the variance, then other developers would ask for the same. And we understand, we want to be reasonable, but we think in this case the curbs would help in the area. This is looking at the east side of Amarillo where the school is. So the crosswalk would basically come up here, and then you would just have a very short gap for kids to walk along that side of the street. If the school was to continue that sidewalk, that would obviously help. And then there's a sidewalk right here that takes you to the entrance. This picture kind of gives an overall of the area, so it was important to include this. The purple lines represent all the areas that are already curbed in the area. So you can see it's really just this gap on the north side of the school on 40th that wasn't curbed, as well as this little patch of Amarillo. So we believe this is improving the situation. About 90% of this area has already got the curbs and the gutters in there. On the sidewalk side of things, there's 4 striped crosswalks already. for Goliad. So we believe that is an indicator of a walking pattern, and that having another crosswalk here would connect children from this side of Lakeview in order to get to the school. Now, in terms of the lot sizes, the applicant, or excuse me, the petitioner that was opposed had raised the size of the lots. Obviously, on this map, they do look kind of small, so we just wanted to show you that, but they do meet the minimum lot sizes. And so these areas here could also be replatted to get, some of these areas anyway, to get smaller lots as well. So they do meet the technical minimums of the ordinance. A lot of those lots were platted at 5 acres originally, so that's why they're bigger. On the sidewalks, we believe recommend denial on the variance. So we do want the sidewalks and the crosswalk. Again, for the reasons we mentioned, it would help children crossing the street to school. It's in a good location adjacent to the school. There's no known hardship, and it serves a practical purpose. Staff recommends approval of a first replat of Lot 2, Block 4, Martha Mathers, second edition. Approval of a partial variance to maintain the 30 feet of paving width, but require the curb and gutter for Amarillo Street, and to install the curb and gutter on the easterly portion of East 40th Street, and deny the variance exempting the sidewalks and require the sidewalks adjacent to 40th and Amarillo, subject to the 7 conditions of approval in your staff report. Provide a copy of the tax certificate, remove the chain link fence, reduce the height or move back. So there's a small chain link fence kind of in the site triangle at the corner. So they can either cut that down to 3 feet or just remove it, or just push it back 25 feet, and then they'd be okay. Install the sidewalks adjacent to East 40th and Amarillo and the crosswalk. Submit plans and install water main and connections. Install water and wastewater lines to each lot. Prepare and submit plans for the required improvements to Amarillo Street, or submit a financial guarantee or a variance, and install and curbing adjacent to Amarillo. When we get to the sidewalks, if you all are in support of the sidewalks, we would just change the comment just a little bit, because like I said, this is dependent on the school also supporting this and Public Works looking at any final details if the school was to support. So when we get there, it would just say sidewalks adjacent to East 40th and Amarillo Street, and a painted stripe crosswalk. And then somewhere after here, we would just say with necessary approvals. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Any questions or comments?
Anyone have questions for Mr. Fisher? Okay, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Good morning. Russell with SKG Engineering. I have a quick question for Jeff. Jeff, you talk about the crosswalk on East 40th Street, but your graphics showed it crossing Amarillo Street. Could you maybe help clarify? Are we crossing Amarillo Street with the crosswalk or 40th Street?
Yeah, it's, I think I need to clarify that to say Amarillo. I know what you're talking about now. I meant to say on the other side of 40th Street, which ends at Goliad. So we could change that to say a straight crosswalk across Amarillo. You're right, Russell.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So what we would like to do certainly is work with the school district and the city engineers on where the sidewalks and crosswalks would go. This helps clarify. I was thinking we would be crossing 40th Street with a crosswalk, so that kind of had me going the wrong direction. But crossing Amarillo, yes, we see that. And really, we could even see a sidewalk along 40th Street leading to that crosswalk. And I think we would be supportive of that if we could defer that to the construction phase, you know, when they're building their house and doing their driveways and the like, kind of like what we do on a lot of these infill projects. And then maybe we just take that sidewalk over to where the crosswalk would be and get the children across across Amarillo. And so really we'd like to pull back, or maybe the sidewalk along Amarillo Street may not be as necessary. because if you look at it, the way the traffic flows through there, and maybe there, I think you have some vehicular traffic there. So I think we want to get our kids across Amarillo and not really move them laterally up and down 40th Street there. So so we would ask for that change or that mindset, or even if we could have conversations with staff, the district and engineers on the best way to do that. And then we had asked for deferral, and they offer that for us on the water and sewer services, such that we can do that in conjunction with the home builder, the home building. The developer on this is kind of also the builder on this project. So they're planning on building 3 new homes in this area. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So does anyone have questions for Russell?
Russell, have y'all looked at the drainage there? I mean, I know it's a major problem right there.
It is, and it has been. And when we worked with the school district on adding the new wing to the school over there, we did some detention ponds. This area is low lying. It's super flat. You know, the curb and gutter may help some, but just that segment of Amarillo is super flat. So in a lot of cases, the drainage doesn't have much of anywhere to go at all. So it fills up and slowly works its way out from that area. So this is just a small little infill project. We're less than an acre. You know, our impact to drainage is really nil in this. We just have to know that there's a drainage condition out there that's everybody's been dealing with for years.
Yeah, I grew up over there, and you know, they've kind of flipped that school around, and the playground used to be where the entrance is now, and it used to be a pond when it rained a lot. Now they've made that the front of the school, and so now it all goes to that street, but it just sits there, and there's times where you can't hardly drive through there if it rains quite a bit. And so it's something that they need to take into consideration too when they build those houses there.
And I believe the applicant's listening in on this, and so he'll be aware of that and make sure he elevates the homes. And it's probably a bigger regional issue. You know, we're just flat there. Where to take this drainage is a challenge, and engineering kind of knows that too.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for Mr. Gully? All right. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case? Do we have anyone else for public comment?
No, sir, I don't believe so, unless the owner would like to speak, but I think Russell was speaking on behalf of them.
Okay. So the opposition from the surrounding residents, have they indicated why they're opposed to this replat?
Yes, they have.
Okay. Can you please give us the reasons?
Sure. Let me just,
And again, we're sorry that wasn't included in your packet. We received this on Friday, I think around the afternoon. So I don't.
Yeah, Travis, I had sent that out on I think it was late Friday, but I guess we got it late. Basically, their concerns, their objections are the lot sizes, and they were concerned about rentals, turning them into rentals. Their other concern was about the drainage patterns in the area, and I think they were just concerned about the, the precedent of smaller lots in the area.
Okay. But the lots that are proposed for this replat meet the city's subdivision ordinance requirements.
They do, correct. And I think with the installation of the curb and gutter, the drainage issues would be, and I'll let engineering speak to that. But
I was going to say, if there's someone from engineering that could speak about the drainage, it would really help, I think.
Morning, it's Lance Overstreet, Engineering Services. As you guys know, there's a considerable amount of drainage issue over there. The city has attempted to do some things. The school district has attempted to do some things. The drainage is problematic over there just because of how flat things are. We are requesting that the curbing be put in to try to help keep some of that into the street. And we believe that that may assist in some of the drainage. We do not believe it's going to go away. Unfortunately, without a major regrading of multiple streets in that area, there isn't really a good answer. When the school filled in that area that they were talking about earlier that used to be called Lake Goliad historically, when that was filled in with the expansion, it really kind of pushed all that water onto the street. And unfortunately, we're kind of in that position where there's not a lot of options without a major project by the city to regrade a lot of those roadways in that area.
Okay.
Travis, and I don't know if y'all need to see it now. I've summarized it, I think, but if I do have a copy of that letter, I'm willing to share my screen if necessary.
No, it sounds like you've outlined their issues being lot size, potential for rental units and drainage. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's sufficient for me unless someone else on the commission here wishes to see otherwise.
On the lot size, Russell, with SKG, there's two of the lots that were in opposition to this that are 61 and 62 feet wide. So, our lots are 50 feet to 61 feet wide, 62 feet wide. So I don't know how much credence we should be able to put in someone complaining about a lot that is not much wider than what ours is. So I just like to add that in. And, some of the reasons, one of them is this is how we start another slum area in the city of San Angelo. No, that's not fair to our developer at all. So, we'll address the drainage as best we can. It's a big area and it's always a big issue, or it's an issue and it'll continue to be whether we do anything or not there.
Okay. So I guess I need to formally close public comment. And then get thoughts among us or a motion. Personally, the meeting the minimum lot requirements is sufficient for me. I don't think the existing lots are, as Russell noted, significantly larger than what would be the lots that come from this replat. And I think I agree with the city on sidewalks. It's across the street from a school, so if there's a need for sidewalks across the street from a school would be, in my opinion, maybe the highest priority. And then obviously drainage. If Lance thinks that adding curb and gutter is going to improve the drainage, it would certainly keep the water maybe off of that site, which would be, I would think, something that you'd want to do if you're building these homes. So anyone else have thoughts or wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve as written.
Okay.
So would there be would that include any deferrals?
At the request of Russell?
The water and sewer taps, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yeah, I think you mentioned the sidewalk, and so I guess that'd be the side, or he also wanted one sidewalk, I think, instead of two. He wanted those deferred, and then he wanted the taps deferred, I believe. Is that right, Russell?
Yes, sir. And I think the report says deferral. We just need to request deferral through engineering and or planning. So I think the report offers deferrals.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
I think Lance has something to say.
Yeah, I have a comment on the water and sewer taps. We do have a process by a performance agreement, and or we also too have worked something out where if those taps have been ordered and requested, I do not believe that we can actually completely defer them without using some of the other mechanisms in place, because that actually exists in a different part of the ordinance. And so I don't know the Planning Commission can defer that part of it, but we do have a mechanism to work around those items currently in place with performance agreements, and we worked with them by ordering those taps so that way the plat can be recorded at that point. So.
Okay.
Ryan, I have a question for you. In your
Yes, ma'am.
motion, are you saying that you are denying or they're requesting a variance, so you're denying the variances, is that correct? Are you?
Yes. I'm saying I want it to be approved just as staff has written it.
Okay.
So that would be a partial variance on the roadway width and denial of the
Right.
variance on the sidewalks.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve as proposed by the city staff. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Show of hands. Aye.
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 Opposed?
So that motion passed 6-0.
6-0. Okay. We go back to the agenda. All right, rezonings. City Council has final authority for approval of rezoning. Z 20-08, 501 West Avenue V. Request for approval of an ordinance rezoning property from the single-family residential zoning district to the neighborhood commercial zoning district, being 0.138 acres, the southwest corner of West Avenue V and South Bryant Boulevard.
All right, bear with me one moment. Okay, one moment. Thanks for everyone's patience. All right, so our next case is a zone change, 501 West Avenue V, Jimenez. It's at the southwest corner of West Avenue V and South Bryant. The zone change request is from RS1, single family residential, to CN, neighborhood commercial. It's in District 3, Harry Thomas's district in the Rio Vista neighborhood. The future land use is neighborhood center, and the zoning is RS1. So just a quick background on this. In 2003, when we brought in our city comprehensive plan, this whole area that went up to R down to San Jacinto was designated in the future land use plan low density residential. And I guess over time, more commercial development started to happen that by 2009, when we did our vision plan, our strategic update, we changed this to neighborhood center. Neighborhood center allowed local commercial zoning, so CN, underlying CN zoning, and that's what the applicant is proposing. His plan is for a drive-through grocery. He could change that later and do retail or other, a bank or an office or something different than that as well. But that was kind of what led to this today. And over time, as you can see on the map, since that 2009 change to the comprehensive plan, there's been a few zone changes to match. So this was office warehouse for an electrical company here. This is a retail plaza here that was rezoned CN. This is a vacant piece that's also CN. So commercial development, 3 lots in on either side, have started to take place over time. So this would also be another opportunity for commercial development that's immediately adjacent to Bryant. So this is north on South Bryant Boulevard, and this is south. At time of development, if the zone change was to approve, we would want a sidewalk along Bryant, consistent with TxDOT plans. You can see there's already sidewalk ramps here. If you go south about 2 blocks, there's sidewalk continuation here, as well as a Dollar Tree that was approved with sidewalk connections. So that would again not be part of the zoning, but just an FYI as we get closer to development. This is east on Avenue V, and this is west. So they would have to put up a privacy fence along the west and south side of the property. As you go further west and further south, you've got residential development. And this is looking south at the property. So they'd have a fence here and a fence here. Again, not part of the zoning, but at the time of development. 22 notifications were mailed. We received 1 in favor from a homeowner over here that was supportive of more commercial development in the area. Staff is recommending approval. As we just discussed, we believe it's compatible with the plans and policies. There was a shift in 2009 by City Council to support neighborhood commercial zoning along this area, and that's been the trend ever since. It's consistent with the zoning ordinance. The lots will meet the minimum standards. It's 50 feet wide by 120 feet deep, so that meets the minimums in the CN district. It's compatible with the surrounding area. The applicant had a DRC with us, with staff recently, and we talked about some of the parameters, so he's aware of what he has to do if this zone change goes through for his development. There was a house actually at one time, many years ago. By the time we looked at the historic aerials, by 1972, that house was removed. So it's been vacant ever since. With the comprehensive plan change in 2009, we believe that the change conditions would warrant a commercial development in this area. No anticipated effects on the natural environment. We believe there's a community need for another drive-through grocery or some type of retail development in this area. The development patterns, my understanding is that TxDOT will not allow another access off of Bryant, so they would have to connect from Avenue V, but we believe they could have an ingress in and an egress out, or they could also pave the alley. That does need to be a privacy fence there, but again, if it was just customer parking or something, we might consider, a possible second entrance there. Either way, they have options available. Staff recommends approval of a rezoning from the single family RS1 district to the neighborhood commercial CN district on the subject property located at 501 West Avenue V, being 0.138 acres. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Any questions or comments?
Anyone have questions for the staff or for Jeff? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Do we have anyone that wishes to speak on this case?
I do not believe the applicant is available today, so I'm not sure we have anybody who wanted to speak.
Okay.
I make a
I'm
motion
going-
to accept. as
Okay, I'm
presented.
going to close public comment. We have a motion to accept as proposed.
Second.
And a second. So we have a motion and a second to accept as proposed. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Or Rove, show of hands. All right. And opposed?
That motion passed 6-0.
All right. Next case. Conditional uses. Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. CU 20-09, 401 and 405 West Avenue Y. Request for approval of conditional use to allow for construction of a single-family house at 401 West Avenue Y, 405 West Avenue Y, generally located northeast of the W Avenue Y and South Bryant Boulevard. So, is
Good
this Hillary?
morning.
It's actually Sherry hopping on.
Sherry. All right.
I hope it's me. Good morning.
I had Hillary on my screen.
Planning Commissioners, Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner. And if you'll bear with me for just a moment, I'd like to share my screen and we'll get started. Did that come up?
Yes.
Okay. The request before you is for 2 lots. Whoops. I've got a I lost my, there we go. For 2 lots, as you indicated, at 401 and 405 West Avenue Y. It's generally located southwest of West Avenue Y and the Ben Ficklin Road intersection. The conditional use request there is to build 2 single-family homes on one on each one of the lots. You'll recognize the area because the applicant, Mr. Jacobs, had requested a couple of weeks back to build a conditional use to build a single family home on a lot directly across the street. This is in District 3, Mr. Thomas's district, and it's in the Rio Vista neighborhood. The present zoning for that, our future land use for that area is neighborhood center. That's why the conditional use is necessary. And the zoning was recently done to neighborhood commercial. This is looking at the property. The slide site on the right are the 2 lots. They directly back up to a residential piece of property and are adjacent to a residential piece of property. And if you look across Ben Ficklin, you will see the Boys and Girls Club, which is here, and then the school, elementary school, which is across the street. The rationale for approval on this, we believe that the development of this as a residential is consistent with what's occurring in that block and across the street. We believe the impacts are minimized. The lots are at least 50 by 138 feet, which is consistent with the RS1 zoning, which is in the surrounding area. And because of that, we do believe that this is an area that is consistent with residential development. We believe the effect on the natural environment will be none. Drainage is handled in the area by curbing both on Avenue Y and on Ben Ficklin. As you're aware, the recent housing study indicated that affordable housing is a desperate need in the city of San Angelo, and these 2 lots and the intended housing will meet that criteria of affordable housing. It's not going to have any change on the development pattern for the area. We sent out 16 notices. We received 0 in favor and 0 in opposition. We did not hear from the school, which was consistent with the last time they were notified for a conditional use for residential housing. Staff is recommending approval of the conditional use to allow the construction of a single-family home on both 401 and 405 West Avenue Y, subject to two conditions of approval: that the applicant be required to obtain a building permit from permits and inspections, and that the development shall comply with the zoning ordinance and the standards for RS1. With that, I will close my screen and quit sharing. Is there any questions that I could answer?
Sherry, I have one question.
Yes,
This was not too long ago changed to neighborhood commercial. Is that correct?
that's correct. Yes.
Okay. Why would we want to do a conditional use? Why would we not go back to a RS1?
The zoning actually was not RS1. At the
Okay.
time that it was changed, it was a heavier commercial zoning. And so that's why we went to the neighborhood commercial, which we felt was more consistent with the general area and then would allow by conditional use residential development.
As well, it matched the future land use in that area.
That's correct, yes.
So when they came in, it was CGCH, the future land use recommended this area be neighborhood centers. So we went to neighborhood commercial to be in line with that. And he understood that if he wanted to build homes, he would need a conditional use.
Okay. I was just looking, if it backs up to homes and it's next door to a home that's already there, just, it looks like it would be better to, in my opinion, to rezone it to the RS1 instead of a conditional use.
At the time that the applicant came in, we had talked to him about what his overall plans were. And he felt that he was going to do a single family residential, but he wanted the option to see, because he had someone that was interested in the property. So he was comfortable with the CN zoning. He is now going to do a single family on both lots.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for the staff? All right, we're going to open it up for public comment.
The applicant in this case had a conflict that developed this morning. He will not be present.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? Please come forward. State your name. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone have thoughts or wish to make a motion?
I don't particularly like all the conditional uses that we have on a lot of properties. That's why I was thinking it would be better if we did it as a different zone for the homes, for the houses.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Terry. So Terry, how do you think we move forward?
I think you got to make a motion to deny this request if that's what you want to do.
Just think it makes more sense. I agree 100%.
So Sherry, is there a way to deny this, and do they have to apply for a rezoning, or can we insert that?
Well, and just to be clear, again, they applied for a rezoning that was in line with the future land use. So if they come back at your request, they'll have to do a future land use amendment and another rezoning. The conditional use process is a process that is allowed in the zoning ordinance to allow things like this. The other option that he has, if you allow a conditional use for this, is this area could lend itself more to mixed uses. So if we do not these two, but let's say right down the street, if they have a neighborhood commercial and somebody wants to do a mixed use, so they do a neighborhood commercial, I'm going to make up something, maybe a small dry cleaners or something to that effect on the bottom, they could apply for a conditional use on the top to do residential living. So I think this area it is a lot single family right now, but you got to realize that Dollar Tree is just maybe a block to the south. I really believe this area is probably more in a transition phase than it is exclusively single family. Again, as
We've also got, don't we also have Ben Ficklin Road that ties into that that road that goes into the Walmart Supercenter just south?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it does.
And this is siding on Ben Ficklin, is it not?
It
Yes,
does,
sir.
yes.
It has one side on Ben Ficklin. And we had walked with the applicant through his multiple options, as Sherry said. He wasn't quite sure at the time exactly which way he's going to go, but this process is an allowed process through the zoning ordinance. We've done this conditional use many times, and had this been an area that was completely surrounded by RS1, staff would not have even chosen this direction. It wouldn't have made sense. But since this area is more of a transition area with Dollar Tree, Walmart, the school, the Boys and Girls Club, there's a lot going on in this area. So I think this area does lend itself to have that flexibility to be neighborhood commercial while still allowing the residential units if they so choose.
Right. And just,
John,
I would add one more thing. One of the things that we're looking at is some changes to our commercial zoning districts that would not necessarily prohibit residential development within those zones, particularly this neighborhood commercial category, perhaps allowing certain types of residential. So I think longer term, we're looking at the conditional uses going away because some residential like this would just be allowed by right within those commercial districts,
right.
so allowing more of the mixed use kinds of development.
And when I was out taking pictures on this one and then the one a couple of weeks ago, I was stopped by some of the residents that live in the area, and they don't have a problem either with residential or the small commercial that they've been living with. It's kind of, as Hillary indicated, an area that's in flux, but it's also a convenience for the property owners. But they like the fact that it's residential still in character.
So if everybody would allow me for just a moment to share my screen, I've pulled up Google Street Maps. Again, these are not, exactly to date. Some of them are a little bit out of date, but let me see if I can show you what I'm looking at here. So if you'll allow me to do this, this actually is the property here, kind of what I'm circling. So you can see directly across the street is the City Rec Center, the Boys and Girls Club, and the school. One thing I want to point out is directly across from this is an older building, and I'm not sure when it was built. You can see it's more commercial in nature. So that's one thing we looked at as well. Let me go down just a little bit and turn back. This home is actually connected to this building. So again, the mixed use in this area is pretty predominant. And then right south of there, I think this building could either be residential or commercial. It looks like at one point it may have been used as a commercial use. It's a large parking lot and then the building itself. And then as I talked about, here's Dollar Tree right here. So just to kind of give you a better or a little bit reminder kind of the area of the city that we're looking at. So again, we really did consider the possibility of just doing RS1 or doing a future land use amendment, but we really thought this neighborhood center with the conditional use in this specific area made sense. So again, it's up to you guys and what you want to do. You can recommend.
Yeah, I'm going to make one more point.
Yes, sir.
If we just took these two lots and rezoned them, I don't think we're doing any favors for this area. If you think that single family is what this area needs to be, Terry, then I think we've got to look at a much larger swath of land Otherwise, it's probably detrimental to this property to be single family and surrounded by neighborhood commercial that has more flexibility for use down the road.
Yeah, the building that you were showing a while ago, Hillary, that was kind of greenish gray color, that was a restaurant or had been in the past.
Right.
And it has, the area has started changing when Dollar Tree moved in, whenever Max did all the changing on that. It just seems odd to me that he had everything rezoned recently to neighborhood commercial and now is flip-flopping and wanting to go back and build houses on it.
I don't think it was single family before.
It was.
No, that's what they said. That's what they said just a few minutes ago. There's houses around it though, is what I'm saying. And most of the, if you'll look at most of the elementary schools, which that school was built as an elementary school that's over there, they're surrounded normally by houses and homes. So that
Right.
was, you know.
We've also got Bryant Boulevard at the one block to the west, where we've had multiple rezones of the frontage for commercial development. I mean, we just had a case earlier on that. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to making it single family, Terry. I just think you have to go look at city blocks and not two lots if we're going to do that.
Right. I understand what you're saying.
Okay. So, does anyone wish to make a motion on this case?
I'll move to approve as accepted or as presented.
Okay. We have a motion to approve as presented by the staff. Do we have a second?
Did we lose a commissioner? I'm sorry. I'm only seeing 5 members.
I believe Luke
Commissioner,
had early.
Commissioner Herrick just left.
Luke is not gone.
Oh, okay. Luke is gone. Okay.
I'll second that after that discussion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the city staff. All in favor, show of hands with aye.
Aye.
And then opposed?
Okay. The motion passed 5-0.
5-0. Okay. All right. Last case. Sign variance. Planning Commission has final authority for approval of sign variances. Appeals may be directed to City Council. SV 20-02, 3949 Sherwood Way, a request for approval of a sign variance to allow a 350 square foot on-site sign in lieu of the maximum of 250 square feet for a business located at 3949 Sherwood Way.
Good morning again, Planning Commissioner Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner. I'm going to be sharing my screen, but I would like to make one, don't laugh, make one change to, I believe you have the old agenda. The agenda was changed to say 300 square feet instead of 350.
Okay. So it's a 300 square foot sign.
Yes. Billboards sign, yes.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, whoops. I've been having problems all along with my. Okay. The request before you is for 0.734 acre. There's an existing billboard on that site, and the variance request is for a 300 square foot use of the 300 square foot sign in lieu of the maximum 200 square foot, which is allowed for the regular.
We're not seeing your screen. We're seeing the regular screen.
Okay. Bear with me, I hope. Okay. Hillary? I lost my Zoom connection also.
We show you're still there, Sherry.
You do? Well, I don't have a way to share my screen. That's why I'm, okay. And that's not showing, right?
No, you might try Alt Tab on your keyboard and see if it will scroll through your different windows that are open until you find your presentation. Just hold down Alt and then hit Tab as you tab through your screens.
Yeah. Hang with me. It's my Zoom screen that I'm missing. Oh. My screen has disconnected, Aaron, from my from my desktop.
Okay. Why don't you see if you can back out of the meeting and re-log in? And we'll just take a quick little break here.
I'm going to pull up, if you'll bear with me, I'm trying to pull up the PowerPoint so I can share my screen and I'll click through it.
Okay, great.
So bear with me for 1 second. I will.
Okay. Yeah, Hillary, my desktop must have shut it down because I can't reconnect.
No, you're good. Just stay right there. Can you see what is being presented?
I can't see anything actually but you.
Okay. Well,
For
we
some
will
reason.
share this so they'll be able to see it and we will walk through it.
Can you take it? Because I can't see anything.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Here we
So
go.
we'll go through these.
It's loaded up.
Yep. So we got it going here. All right. So bear with me. We're going to zoom through the previous PowerPoint. So this is a sign variance at 3949 Sherwood Way. If you'll look on the screen, you can see the existing Mitchell Buick GMC dealership kind of below this. The new car wash and the cotton patch would kind of be adjacent to this. This is a sign variance, and I'm sorry, this is 350. Again, we made that mistake, but this is a sign variance to request an existing 300 square foot sign be used as an on-site sign in lieu of the maximum 250. So this is an existing billboard sign that measures 300 square feet, and they are wanting to advertise an on-site business. This is SMD number 6 in Billy DeWitt's neighborhood in the district and ASU College Hills neighborhood. So this shows some of the area. The future land use is commercial and the existing zoning is general commercial. So just so that everyone's aware, this billboard sign is a legal permitted billboard sign. So this is an off-site sign. They built it to standard. Everything about it today was good. In fact, they were advertising Mitchell Buick on it, GMC, but at that point it was off-site. Mitchell has since purchased this property to expand their lot. Therefore, advertising Mitchell on it now would make it an on-site sign. So that's why we're having this discussion today. They would like to continue to be able to advertise Mitchell on their existing billboard sign. So this is an exhibit map that Sherry created. You'll see on the bottom left-hand corner, it says freestanding sign. About the middle, there's a freestanding sign. And then as you looked about the middle of the right-hand side, you'll see the billboard sign. So Mitchell Buick actually has 2 existing freestanding signs that have their logo and branding on them. Again, this billboard sign has been advertising them because it was off-site, but you can see it's fairly close to their existing signs. So this is 2 pictures of this looking northeast at the billboard sign from the lot, and then turning around and facing down Sherwood Way as if you were going towards Walmart, Sam's, kind of that direction. So you can see the existing signs, the Mitchell GMC is in the picture to the right. So to get a variance on sign, you have to prove a hardship, and there's many ways you can do that. So the size or shape of the structure, the location, some topography, other physical limitations. Why is this site different? Why does it need a different sign? I know we looked at a sign variance last month, so it kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking for. Jeff spoke to topography, stuff like that. We do not believe there is a hardship in this location. The applicant who is applying is the sign owner, just so that you're aware of that. And Mitchell Buick has signed an affidavit saying that they could act on their behalf. So we are recommending denial. Again, we don't believe there is a hardship for any of this. Mitchell Buick has over 700 feet of frontage. They're allowed 5 on-site signs because of that frontage. They can each be 250 square feet, and they could have up to 5 of them. So they could add 3 more signs that's about the same size, but a little bit less. So many of the existing commercial properties have billboards on their property. They act as income streams, and they abide by the rules and do not attempt to advertise on these billboards. The purchase of the lot, they knew the existing billboard was there. In fact, we had talked to Mitchell when they purchased the lot and told them, yeah, we're good with this. You can expand the dealership, but just be aware that you will not be able to advertise on the screen or on the billboard. And at the time, they were okay with that. So we're talking about the harmony with the sign ordinance. Again, the sign ordinance was created to eliminate a proliferation of signs everywhere. So the standards have worked well, and we still have standards, again, that would allow them to meet their needs if they need additional advertising, just not using the existing billboard as an on-site sign. We're afraid that if we allow one business to use an existing billboard, then we have this all over town. So this is not the minimum variance necessary. This billboard can still be used as a billboard. It's just that they would not be able to advertise Mitchell on it. So they can advertise anybody around town. We're just asking that Mitchell not be able to use this billboard. And the variance would go against the sign provisions as it stands today. Staff is recommending denial of a variance to allow the use of an existing billboard sign with a sign area of, again, 300 square feet in lieu of maximum 250. I do have one extra slide here. Oh, it's not on here. I'll have to pull it up.
Yeah.
The applicant has requested that we show what they're proposing to do. Their proposal was that they would basically create 2 black sections of the billboard, so it would bring the billboard into, so basically they would only advertise on 250 square feet, but the way the sign ordinance is written, you have to count the entire sign area. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to see if I can pull up their email, but does anyone have any questions at this point?
So I have a question. They could add 3 more signs to their property, which would add so much more noise pollution or sign pollution. Or we could allow them to advertise on the billboard that's right there on their lot.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I think
Oh, I'm sorry, Travis.
I was just gonna, I want to clarify, is the applicant the property owner?
No, sir, the applicant is the sign, the person who owns and operates the sign company, and he's available on this call as well.
Okay, well, I don't know how we could, I'm with Ryan on this. If the landowner's willing to not add any more freestanding signs.
Well, this approval would
to
not
allow for
prohibit that.
this.
This approval would not prohibit that. So they could still add 3 more and advertise.
Yeah, so that's, if we're talking about not adding any more signs, then I'd be interested, but just to approve an on-site sign for this.
The likelihood that you tell them, no, they can't use this billboard, they're going to say, screw you, I'm going to add 3 signs.
Right. But they're going to add, they have the right to add those signs anyway, is what they're saying,
Yeah.
right?
Well, but
Right.
I think as a variance, you can attach conditions to this. So if that's your direction.
So is the property
you could
owner represented in this case?
They have,
The
I
applicant's
think
not
Hillary
the
said
property owner.
they authorized the applicant to speak for them as well. Is that correct, Hillary?
Correct. Yes, sir. Mr. Cooper is on the line. He is authorized to speak on behalf of the property owner. He is the applicant, and they have signed an affidavit.
And,
But
and
just
why
to,
would,
just
why
to
would,
clarify, I
why
was
would
just
we
going
deny
to,
them the use of the billboard if it's a billboard that's already there and they're currently using it?
Well, the current ordinance states that you cannot have a on-site sign that is over 250 square feet. So people put up billboards as a revenue stream, and then they advertise for others throughout the city. So if we allow this applicant to do it, I believe, and this is, I guess, my interpretation, we would be opening up a huge gateway to allow others to not only advertise their on-site signs, but also allow them to have billboards, which are considered off-site signs throughout the city. So this would
let me give another example though of what we wouldn't want to happen is if a business went into a location that allows a billboard, but we allowed them to build a billboard size sign to advertise their business, they would effectively be taking away the ability to have an off-site billboard sign. Not to mention, as Hillary just noted, it basically would allow a loophole for any business who's in a location that allows a billboard. They could build a billboard larger than we normally allow on-site signs in order to advertise their business. And again, taking away the ability to do a true billboard in that same location.
And let me share.
But to answer that earlier question, I think as a condition of this variance, if you choose to grant it, you could make a condition that they not add any more on-site signs in exchange for allowing this larger on-site sign.
Let me share my screen real quick so I can get Mr. Cooper's thing up here before he starts to speak. So I'm going to show this and he can speak more to this. So this is the current size of the vinyl, which is 10 by 30, 300 square feet. And the proposed size of the vinyl that he has right now is he was going to create 2 black sections, make it 25 by 10 to be the 250.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for the city staff?
I mean, I would be likely to approve this if they would agree to not add 2 more signs.
Yeah. Okay. So let's, I guess we need to open this up for public comment.
Doug, are you there?
I am here. Can y'all hear me?
Perfect. Yes, sir.
Can y'all see me?
Not right now.
Okay. All right. This is the first time I've done a Zoom call. Actually, Sherry and I practiced on Friday. So for some reason, I can't see my face today, and I guess y'all can't see it as well. But okay. So, but y'all can hear me, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Very good, very good. Okay, so first off, let me start out by saying that I am not in any way trying to convert my off-site sign because that's the business that I'm in. I'm in the billboard business, okay? I am in no way trying to convert my billboard to an on-site sign. That's not what we're talking about here. I would never do that in a million years, would I convert a billboard sign to an on-site sign, okay? So what I'm trying to do here is, well, first off, the Mitchells have advertised on this billboard for 10 or so years. So this sign's always been a billboard sign. It was originally permitted as a billboard sign. It was built to the city's ordinance as a billboard sign, built to the state federal code as a billboard sign. So regardless of what happens here today and whatever solution comes out of today's meeting, the sign will always be a billboard sign. Its classification will not be converted to an on-site. So I'm not trying to attempt to convert an on-site sign. So I think that first slide that Hillary showed a little bit, it wasn't correct. Okay, I hope everybody understands that. So these are the remarks that I've prepared for this. So forever, all the way through the 1965 Highway Beautification Act to today, billboard signs have given the businesses the opportunity to advertise their product or service to the general public for a fee. So this classification of signs is unique in terms that any business can pay to advertise regardless of where the sign or the business is located. This classification of sign is highly regulated at the federal, state, and local level. Of all the hundreds of pages of the Texas Administrative Code and the Federal Highway Beautification Code that stipulate the rules and regulations for billboard signs, nowhere does it say that a business cannot pay to advertise their product or service if that business is located on the same property as the permanent billboard sign. That would be illegal. From what I understand, the city of San Angelo is under the assumption that just because the advertiser on the billboard also owns the property where the billboard is, that the sign would now have to fall under the on-site sign regulation. This is a false narrative. Let's assume that we use the city's assumption that the content of the sign dictates the rules that the sign must fall under, because after all, that's why we're having a discussion. So here are a few examples of how this is an incorrect interpretation of the rules. Let's take political signs. The city sign code says that a political sign must not exceed 32 square foot and that it must be displayed no more than 9 days prior to an election. So if we go by this, and if the advertiser on the sign dictates the classification of the sign as opposed to the actual permitting of the sign, I suppose nobody who is running for any city office, such as mayor or city council, as they do every single election cycle, that wants to advertise on a billboard cannot if we apply the same rules that the city is applying to my case today. Let's take real estate signs. The city sign code states that the max area is 32 square foot. Once again, is the city going to tell all real estate agents that rely on billboard advertising at 300 square foot that they cannot advertise on billboards because all of a sudden that permitted billboard has now become classified as a real estate sign under the city sign code? The city must do this if you apply the same interpretation that the advertiser on the sign dictates the permit classification of the sign. So this goes on, and I'm confident that you all see the problems with changing the legal classification of a sign simply by the advertiser on that sign. It's a slippery slope that obviously does not hold water. So with all that said, the Mitchell Group has paid my company for 10 or so years to advertise their products on my billboard signs. Just recently, they purchased a lot where the billboard sign is located to expand their capacity, and the city came and demanded that they take their advertisements down. In order to try to find a solution with the city, I proposed that we reduce the size of their advertising from 300 square foot to 250 square foot, thereby complying with the misinterpretation of the sign code. Even though the federal government, state of Texas, and every single municipality I've ever owned billboards in, from Texas to Pennsylvania, has never interpreted the rules the way that the city of San Angelo is, where the advertiser dictates the classification of the sign, prohibits the company from paying my company to advertise. Even all this, I'm willing to compromise and reduce the size of their advertisement. So even with that compromise, the city came back and said, no, regardless that the Mitchell Group is allowed the extra square footage of sign per the city's on-site sign regulations. So there's a few issues here. The first issue is the legal question of whether the city has the authority to prohibit a company, any company, from paying another company for a service, advertising on a permanent billboard sign, regardless of the location. The other issue is the one pertaining to the content of the sign dictating the classification of the sign. So if we go by the city's interpretation and application, then the city would have to tell all real estate agents, political candidates, banks that finance construction, subdivision construction signs, celebratory signs such as the ones we just ran for San Angelo ISD for the 2020 graduates, and many others, that they can no longer advertise on billboards because the square footage of a billboard sign exceeds the square footage of all the signs I just mentioned, along with the other codes that do not fit the codes of a billboard sign. So the bottom line is, if a company wants to pay my company to advertise on one of my billboard signs, whether it's a political candidate or a real estate agent or San Angelo ISD or the Mitchell Group, they should be allowed to do so without the city trying to change the classification of the billboard sign that they want to advertise on. So like I said, I have a compromise solution that would comply with the 250 square foot rule for on-site signs. I appreciate y'all's time, and please, I'd love to answer some questions from y'all.
Who was it with the city that brought this issue up? This is stupid.
Ryan, let me jump in before you guys answer questions, and let me just remind you that what's before you today is a request for a variance. And that's what you have the ability to consider. All of these legal issues regarding the sign, we do have an interpretation from our legal department, basically disagreeing with what Mr. Cooper is suggesting, but that's not what's before you today. We do have a process to appeal an interpretation of our ordinance. That goes to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. I just want to clarify that you are not here to determine what our ordinance says or how it's applied. You are here to make a decision on the variance. And so I don't want to get off in the weeds on legal interpretations because there are separate processes to deal with that if an applicant disagrees with our interpretation of the ordinance.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just clarify one thing, and I also don't want to get into the weeds of it, but to say that how we're regulating is illegal and making that distinction between on and off-site signs and the content determines whether it's on-site or off-site. The Supreme Court has taken up this exact issue, and the big difference is whether it's commercial content or non-commercial. All the things Mr. Cooper said about political signs, ideological signs, that gets the highest level of protection and scrutiny under the First Amendment. So what he's saying is right about that, but when we're talking about commercial signs, that gets less protection under the Supreme Court's analysis. And they have upheld the on-site versus on-site, off-site versus on-site distinction, meaning you have to look at the content of the sign to be able to determine what it is. And that's been allowed. Now, there is an analysis for that, and they do get some protection, but it's lesser than what the political signs and all that other stuff that Mr. Cooper was referencing. So this has been an issue that's been taken up by the Supreme Court, and it's not illegal how it's being regulated here. So.
And
right. So can I step in for a second?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So all I am saying is that it's sort of the cart before the horse situation where you have a sign that was permitted as a billboard sign. Okay. So I don't believe you can go ahead and reclassify a sign strictly because of who advertises on that sign. Does that make sense? So yes, there are, and I understand, I'm well versed in all the constitutional law for billboards. And that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is if a political candidate wants to advertise on one of my billboards, and they do, okay, so all of a sudden, are we going to call that billboard sign a political sign? You know, so does that make sense, Brandon? So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what is advertised on the sign does not change the classification of the sign. So this is, it's an off-site sign. It's a billboard sign. Because the city code has all the rules and regulations for on-site, political, real estate, so on and so forth. So we're talking about billboard sign, but where we're having the issue is the content of that billboard sign, whether it's a political ad or whether it's a real estate ad, we can't change the classification of the permitting. I hope I'm making some sort of sense.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I would disagree to the extent that it's a commercial sign. I mean, I don't want to get into the political signs. You know, that's not what we're talking about here. But I mean, the definition in the code for on and off-site signs. So on on-site, it's any freestanding or attached sign, whether containing a non-commercial message or advertising goods, services, facilities, events, or attractions available on the premises where the sign is located. And then the definition for off-site is any freestanding sign other than on-site signs. So I believe under the Supreme Court cases, that distinction has been upheld, and we can look to the content. And so, yes, if you're advertising for potential on that sign, I think you need this variance to be able to be an on-site sign because it's permitted off-site right now.
Okay.
Right.
But
And
is there
again,
any other public comment?
I don't want to have back and forth on the constitutional legal
Yep.
issues again.
I agree.
All you're here to do is look at the variance.
Well,
Is there
and
any
I would
other
like
public
to,
comment? Does anyone else would like to speak on this case? Would you please come forward?
I think we need to let the property owner, the sign owner, and the city settle their pissing match before we get involved with it and make any decisions on anything.
well, and let me start, Ryan, let me go back. I know you said you brought this up. We did, staff did. This is what is considered, if we're advertising on site, it's considered an on-site sign, and we have rules for on-site signs. If you're advertising for something that's off-site, you have rules for off-site signs. So when this became an on-site sign, we had different rules. Their way to remedy or to get what they want was to come to you. So that's why we brought it before you, was that they are going to advertise for on-site services. Therefore, they are an on-site sign, and the maximum they can be is 250 square feet. If you believe,
and Ryan, just to clarify, Ryan, this is the sign owner, not the property owner, and the sign owner has clearly indicated that they want to keep a billboard. So there's no concession for no more on-site signs if we allow this one. They just want to continue to be allowed to do what they've done before, despite the property owner changing hands and it being an on-site sign.
So my question is, can Jim Bass Ford advertise on the 300 square foot sign that's there?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So the competitors can, but the property owner can't.
That's correct. That's the definition of an on-site versus off-site sign.
Well, I mean,
the Pandora's box of problems is people putting billboards up and using them as on-site signs to circumvent the on-site signage ordinance that would require smaller square footage for signs. So we could potentially have billboards everywhere as on-site signs if we allow a variance like this.
We have too many billboards. We have too many billboards in the city anyway.
Exactly. So
you can't just put up a billboard anywhere. Okay, that doesn't work. The rules and regulations for the city.
If a billboard is allowed on the property, they could put a billboard up and advertise the business at that location if we granted a variance like this. And that is why the city is pushing to not allow this variance, sir.
Right. No. I understand. What I'm saying is the spacing is not correct. So you have to have spacing between any other billboards, right? So there's 500-foot spacing between any other billboards off-site signs. So they couldn't put a billboard sign. Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Wait, just a second.
Motion.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Terry.
I make a motion to deny.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. All in favor, raise your hand, please. Opposed to the denial?
That was a 4-1 vote.
4-1. Okay. Last item. Director's report. John, you got anything for us?
Yeah, sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. Really, the only thing I have is the same thing I've mentioned the last couple of meetings. As you may know, the governor extended for 30 days the allowance for meetings like this through video conference. So we've got another 30 days. Unfortunately, that means that will expire just before the next planning commission meeting. So we'll be kind of in the same boat, waiting until a few days before the meeting to know whether or not we'll be meeting in person or again by video conference. So I think the current plan is to continue to meet by video conference as long as the governor's order allows it. But it's really a wait and see month to month. And so that's really all I had.
Okay. Future meeting agenda and announcements. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is tentatively scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. on Monday, July 20th. Adjournment. We'll have a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Or hands? Opposed?
5-0.
All right, 5-0, 10:33 a.m. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.